to the interview that many argue has been weeks, months, or even years overdue. Joe Biden, the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, who finally weighed in today on a former staffer's claim that he sexually assaulted her nearly 3 decades ago. Adam Reilly has more.
On MSNBC's Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski asked Joe Biden directly about Tara Reade's detailed allegation of sexual assault.
She says in 1993, Mr. Vice President, that you pinned her against the wall and reached under her clothing and penetrated her with your fingers.
I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Brzezinski kept pressing, noting Biden's own comments when Christine Blasey Ford accused then Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh.
You said this: for a woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she is talking about is real.
Believing women means taking the woman's claims seriously when she steps forward and then vet it, look into it. But in the end, in every case, the truth is what matters. And in this case, the truth is the claims are false.
Reade's allegations against Biden have changed over time. A year ago, she accused him of improperly touching her in the early 90s. But a month ago, she went further.
His hands were down my skirt and up my skirt.
At first, her claim received limited attention, with skeptics questioning Reade's motives and reliability. But recently, new details have lent credence to her account, including an old Larry King Live clip in which a woman now identified as Reade's mother asks for help.
I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all.
And in some quarters, there's growing concern about going easy on Biden because he isn't Donald Trump.
We find ourselves desperately wanting not to believe.
By speaking publicly, Biden no doubt hopes to put this story to rest. But with Reade reportedly weighing multiple TV invitations, the media's interest may only intensify in the coming days.
All right, Adam joins me now, along with Jon Keller of WBZ News, Joanna Weiss, editor of Experience Magazine, and Dan Kennedy of Northeastern University. Adam, we first discussed this about a month ago, and we raised the issue after that initial interview, why the mainstream media hadn't reported. The New York Times jumped in on it, but no one has done an interview or asked Joe Biden about it until today. Even Anderson Cooper had the opportunity. Do you think the media's approach has been somewhat gingerly approach because they're showing favoritism to Joe Biden?
I think it's definitely been a gingerly approach. I can't think of another time that you have a charge this incendiary and this much time go by without someone being asked directly about it. I think the moment we're living in is maybe part of the reason. If you imagine press scrums out in the world, I think he would have had a shouted question before now. But that's not the whole answer. I mean, Anderson Cooper took a lot of flack for having a chance to ask Biden directly and for not doing it. I mentioned the last time we talked about this, I think one possible reason is that people have become somewhat inured to sexual assault or sexual misconduct allegations in the wake of everything that President Trump has weathered. He said all these women accuse him and there's been no consequence. But even if that's the reason, I don't think it makes it okay. I think he should have been asked long before now.
I would add to that. I agree with everything Adam said, but I would give the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Associated Press a lot of credit for really vetting this story before they went with their big stories. I don't think that there was any delay there that anybody needs to be ashamed about. But what struck me as odd is that once those stories were out, there were all these opportunities to ask former Vice President Biden about this directly. And everybody took a pass on it, which seemed like a real misstep on the part of the media. Another thing about Mika Brzezinski's interview, she asked him about this Kavanaugh analogy over and over and over, and she missed the opportunity to ask him about the fact that there has been some partial corroboration of what Tara Reade is saying. So that struck me as another missed opportunity.
There are a lot of interesting parallels, obviously, between the Kavanaugh situation and the Biden situation right now. You know, similar kinds of accusations of really, really long time lag between, you know, the time of the alleged incident and now. And I think that's part of the problem, that, you know, this is by definition a he said, she said story. And when the accusation is so incendiary and serious, there's an understandable feeling there needs to be due process, and due process does not mean media interviews, and it's really impossible to get due process in this situation. And I think, you know, beyond the necessity of covering it, I think news organizations are wrestling with that right now.
Yeah, look, first of all, the phone call to Larry King from the mother doesn't corroborate anything. She was apparently repeating what she was told by her daughter. She was not an eyewitness to anything. So just to clarify that. But look, critics of the media who claim a double standard have plenty to chew on here. Think back to the Ronan Farrow story at the height of the Kavanaugh hearings, not so much about Dr. Blasey Ford, but there was another woman who came forward with a claim against Kavanaugh, and he wrote about it, and the media picked up on it, and then it vanished without a trace. That also, like this Tara Reade story, had questionable backup to it. So they have a beef there. I would just add very quickly, some years ago, I started getting emails claiming that a major Massachusetts political figure was living a double life. Instead of a happily married man, loving father and husband, he was cruising the gay bars in various cities around the state at night. I deleted it the first time. I deleted it the second time. After the third time, I made one phone call to a person in a position to know. They knocked it down. I moved on with my life. Sometimes I think, you know, you have to realize anybody can claim anything about anyone, and unless there's some tangible proof, it should go in the garbage can.
Yeah, you know, Adam, I actually thought Mika Brzezinski did a good job. I know Dan was a bit critical of her, but she had a set list of questions, and clearly somebody was talking in her ear. I mean, it was, and I thought it was also an interesting ploy that MSNBC decided to have her do the interview solo, not Joe, and obviously so a woman to a man, and she was going to just put it to him, and she was quite specific and graphic at the same time.
I think that was a smart move. I agree with you. And I also agree she did a good job overall. There was one thing that I wish she had done that she did not do, which was say to Biden, tell me if you remember Tara Reade, or what, you know, I think she went by a different name back when she was working for him. What do you remember about her? And what, if anything, do you remember about your interactions with her? Because that gets to the heart of what we're talking about here. I think that was a missed opportunity. Overall, though, good job. The one other thing I would add really quickly is that John said that the call from the mother is not confirmation of anything, and he's right about that. What it is an indication that she was talking about this back in the 90s. One thing that you'll frequently hear is, well, why did she wait so long to bring it up? And now we know she did not wait so long.
We do know that she had apparently told a neighbor, too.